Welcome to Podkey Fantasy Football, where target volume, quarterback pricing, and camp hype all get stress tested. A lot of fantasy arguments sound sharp until you ask what actually has to happen for them to pay off. This slate is really about separating sustainable volume from efficiency mirages and real market value from preseason storytelling. The cleanest baseline for top 10 fantasy wideouts is still volume. Since 2015, about two-thirds averaged at least 9 targets a game, and nearly 3/4 scored 8 or more receiving touchdowns. That typical season, roughly 99 catches, 148 targets, 1,300 plus yards, and around 9.5 scores matters because it keeps us from overrating exciting efficiency samples that never get enough weekly opportunity. Metrics like yards per route, run, route, win, rate, first downs per route, and yards per target are useful, but mostly as filters. They help tell us whether volume can hold, not whether 6 targets a game suddenly become 10. A.J. Brown going around WR10 is basically a debate over environment, not talent. The pro case is easy to see. New England passed more often in neutral situations than Philadelphia did, and its red zone passing profile was better too. If that change creates even a modest target bump, Brown still has a top 3 to top 5 ceiling, and his underlying numbers do not really support an age decline panic. He was still strong in route win rate, yards per route run, and first downs per route. The risk is also straightforward. Team changes often do drag receivers backward, at least early, and a rough opening schedule plus quarterback adjustment friction can matter in fantasy before the talent edge fully shows up. So the bullish argument is better supported than the decline narrative, but it still depends on the offense actually delivering more pass volume where drafters are assuming it will. Jameson Williams is interesting because the path to a true breakout does not require a personality transplant from the offense. He already had 1,117 yards and 7 touchdowns, and the late season usage shift toward crosses, screens, and shorter area work matters more than another highlight reel deep ball. At 6 targets a game, he was productive without hitting the classic top-end volume threshold. If that climbs into the 7 to 7.5 range in a high-volume Lions offense, the upside case becomes much more realistic instead of purely efficiency-driven. Egbuka is the younger breakout swing with both floor and ceiling. A rookie getting 127 targets through a hamstring issue and a messy Tampa Bay passing season is strong evidence that the role was real, not just injury chaos around him. The key question is price. At WR18, you are no longer buying uncertainty for free. You are betting that stabilization around him turns demonstrated target earning into elite production, which is plausible but not automatic. Parker Washington has one of the more persuasive volume arguments in the middle rounds. The late season stretch, the route share jump after the bye, and the 22% target share in games with Brian Thomas Jr. and Jacoby Myers all point to usable volume, not just empty box score residue. Christian Watson is the opposite kind of bet. His profile screams upside through efficiency, and he was already giving WR2 production from week 8 on after the ACL return. If the route share climbs from 68% with teammates missing, WR1 outcomes are on the table. But with Watson, health is not a fake concern just because the efficiency is elite. The bullish case is that role and contract confidence reduce the risk of random usage disappointment. The bearish case is that availability keeps capping the sample we can trust. Josh Downs is less flashy, but maybe easier to model. If Pittman's departure and Alec Pierce's ankle issues really free around 110 targets, the short to intermediate role fits Downs naturally. The market has already adjusted though, so this is more fair value than obvious theft. Stephon Diggs is another case where people can get trapped by the ADP move instead of the player. His price rose after Washington, but 2.42 yards per route run and another 1,000-yard season on just 57% of snaps after knee surgery still say there's life here. Denzel Boston, rising on camp reports, is at least somewhat grounded because the player archetype makes sense. Size, scoring history, and first-team reps give the market something tangible to react to. Makai Lemon is a more fragile bet. The talent argument is still alive once the ADP falls far enough, but repeated hamstring absences are especially damaging for a rookie who needs trust, timing, and playbook reps. That's not noise, that's development cost. Jordan Addison around pick 102 is really a quarterback contingent discount. 20 touchdowns in 2 years at age 24 is legitimate production, but if the passing environment worsens with a change under center, the floor falls faster than drafters may want to admit. Zooming out, late wide receiver is deeper than late running back because the breakout paths are simply more numerous. But the profiles matter. Some names need touchdowns to matter, others need volume, and recurring problems like drops, injuries, or poor fit usually do not stay isolated for long. In 1 QB leagues, the position is deep enough that paying full freight for the elite tier creates a real roster construction trade-off. The argument for waiting is not that Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson are bad picks, it's that Dak, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Goff, and Bo Nix can close enough of the scoring gap to let you win the flex and RB2 slots. The arbitrage point gets sharper when you compare actual fantasy scoring. Over the last 3 seasons, Burrow, Dak, and Goff are much closer per game than their prices imply, which makes Dak or Goff the cleaner value if the board is pushing Burrow up. Superflex is different. There, the market punishes you for pretending scarcity does not exist. 2 solid, affordable starters and a third startable quarterback through roster construction or waivers is usually stronger than chasing one premium name and getting thin behind him. Rushing is still the cheat code for late-round QB upside. If a quarterback can approach 7 fantasy points per game on the ground, history says top 20 finishes follow at a high rate. That's why a player like Malik Willis can matter even if the passing projection looks modest. One of the easiest mistakes in fantasy is evaluating players in isolation. Offensive line health, play caller tendencies, and target competition all change, whether the same talent actually converts into fantasy points. Laramie Tunsil's torn triceps is a good example. That's not just a line note, it's a potential drag on Washington's passing efficiency, which can ripple into Jaden Daniels and the value of his pass catchers. Camp risers can matter when they align with role changes, like Jonathan Brooks gaining workload or Chris Godwin getting healthier reports. But camp news without structural opportunity usually gives us movement before it gives us clarity. At running back, Kenneth Walker is the upside versus role puzzle. The explosive run profile and talk of receiving usage justify ranking him above market, but if the pass game role does not materialize, the path to paying off an early pick narrows. Ramondre Stevenson is almost the inverse. He may not have the same rookie hype ceiling as Tre'Veyon Henderson, but 3-down security, pass protection, and receiving work create the kind of touch floor that stabilizes a roster. And the Jaguars' backfield is a warning sign. Goal line splits can quietly kill fantasy seasons. Backs who stack yards without goal line work often look good on paper and still fail to finish where their touch totals suggest they should. Arunda Gadsden is a reminder that interesting stat lines do not guarantee stable fantasy roles. Staff changes and added competition can turn a promising receiving tight end into a package player, which is useful for best ball and frustrating for weekly lineup leagues. And on ADP, the biggest practical edge is still knowing your room and your platform. Aggregate prices hide major site-specific gaps, and those gaps are actionable. A player rising in ADP is not an automatic fade, and a falling player is not an automatic value. Digs can still work after a rise, downs can become merely fair. Price changes the question, but it does not answer it. That's it for this one from Podkey Fantasy Football. The best preseason takes usually survive one annoying question. Where are the targets, and what could break the plan? This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.